Kia ora, good evening. I'm Hannah Wilkins. Queenstown went into a state of emergency earlier this week following some extreme weather down south. Torrential overnight rainfall caused a number of slips and floods in the resort town, threatening a number of homes, forcing some residents to evacuate.
Queenstown was put into a state of emergency early Friday morning after a month's worth of rain came down overnight. Over 100 people have been evacuated from the streets surrounding the Skyline gondola after a mudslip caused by the wettest day in over 20 years came through the cable car's corridor in the middle of the night. Large logs and mud made its way down Upper Brecon Street and into the township, leaving evacuees worried about the damage done to their homes.
Yes, I'm just worried about
all our stuff,
devices and all my stuff. And
we just leave everything there.
We have been in town like for a long time, so our lives is pretty much here. So.
Yeah.
The heavy rain also caused a large slip along 1 Mile and Glenorchy Road, with travellers being asked to detour up along Fern Hill. Clean-up operations are underway in the resort town, with the help of emergency services, Alliance, Downer and Skyline staff.
Yeah, there's an extensive amount of work to be done there, but we've come up with a plan with the help of Skyline contractors and the technical engineers. So we'll probably kick that into action this afternoon, but Brecon Street, that'll probably be a progressive as we move up.
The state of emergency is set to last for a week, and the Queenstown Lakes District Council are asking residents to avoid non-essential travel through the CBD. In Queenstown, the South Today.
Climate activists rallied together in Dunedin recently, calling for the City Council to immediately adopt a plan to protect our climate. Dunedin City Councillors held a meeting to vote for a zero carbon plan on Monday, as experts warn time may be running out.
What do we want? Zero carbon!
Protesters taking to the heart of Dunedin, urging city councillors to make a change. The group presented the Dunedin City Council with a petition that had over 500 signatures and a push for a zero carbon plan by 2030. They were protesting outside the council's meeting on Monday as they heard from the public before debating and voting on the proposed plan. Otago University marine science professor Abby Smith was among the speakers at the public forum, where she suggested it's time to start taking urgent action.
Climate change isn't something that's distant in the future that our grandchildren will deal with. It's right here and it's right now. And this is certain, it will get worse. We are neither preventing disaster, nor are we prepared for it when it comes.
She's calling councillors to vote in favour of the net carbon zero plan, warning that the mitigating climate change is a matter of life and death.
It's inconceivable now, and it would be unforgivable if we were not to formally adopt the plan.
Both the Otago University and Te Whatu Ora have expressed their support for the plan's adoption, hoping to ensure a safer environment for the public.
This plan is required to make the city do its part in that global effort to fight climate change. If we're not doing our part, how can we ask that anyone else does?
Mayor Jules Radich was among the majority of councillors who voted in favour of adopting the plan, with the final vote counting 11-4, which was met with a small round of applause. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The aftermath of the recent poor weather down south has left a Queenstown Cemetery covered in debris, causing damage to a number of headstones. Visitors may have to wait a little longer before paying respect to the deceased as plans for restoration work gets underway.
Devastating damage destroying some people's loved ones' resting place. Queenstown Cemetery has been left covered in debris or forestry slash after heavy rain caused a mudslip late last week. The resort town received a month's worth of rain in a day, causing large logs and mud to come tumbling down the Skyline corridor, which resulted in over 100 people being evacuated from their Brecon Street homes. Local council says around a third of the historic cemetery was affected by the slash, leaving many families in distress.
You know, it's pretty confronting, so you can understand the anxiety, the noise that is coming out of our community around this incident. Those are our people in there.
The Park Reserve Department believes there's been no serious damage done underground to the grave sites, But even though there's only surface damage, Councillor Matt Wong says it could take several months for the cemetery to reopen due to the complexity of the damage. Restoration work would have to be done before visitors were allowed back, making sure that headstones and graves were returned to their original state.
A creek that's now feeding into the cemetery, so they've got to divert that water to Bracken Street. Then after that, once it's dried out a little bit, we've got to start removing some of those larger logs and make it a lot more safe and secure. And then it's a matter of sifting through some of this debris.
He says the next steps are to secure the earthworks around the site to prevent a repeat with the forecasted wet weather over the weekend. Ngāi Tahu plans to bless the cemetery, paying respects to the sites that were affected by the flood damage. In Queenstown, the South Today.
A nationwide campaign is giving rural farmers the chance to voice their concerns against some government regulations. Members of the Groundswell NZ group took their tractors to the streets in Invercargill earlier this week, setting off on a country-long protest.
A large convoy of tractors starting out their journey of the country, hoping for better working conditions for farmers. Groundswell NZ members made their way to Invercargill on Friday, taking off on their 1,800 kilometre trek to Auckland, protesting against unfair regulations. Group co-founder Bryce McKenzie and Laurie Patterson feel rural communities don't receive much support from the government, believing they impose unworkable rules on food producers.
There's absolutely no way that rural New Zealand can stand 3 more years of this. We want people to be thinking carefully about what they do.
They believe farmers are being ignored by the government, feeling financial struggles are getting worse for the agriculture sector. The advocacy group is inviting supporters to join them on the streets as they pass through various towns and cities on their protest.
Rural people in general haven't been listened to at all. There's been a lot of feedback, we've done a lot of submissions. There's just been no notice whatsoever.
The tractor convoy will continue their journey across the country late into next week, as they look to arrive in Auckland's Ellerslie Racecourse by the start of October. In Invercargill, the South Today.
A Dunedin bird rescue organisation is just holding on by a talon after a complaint threatens the future of the conservation charity.
Bird Rescue Dunedin is flying in turbulence following a single complaint putting the non-profit charitable organisation in jeopardy. Founder Sue Cook has cared for more than 400 birds each year for over a decade, but has been told to dismantle 9 aviaries she has in her backyard without consent. She claims to have an understanding with the Dunedin City Council that allows her to have the aviaries unless they upset the public. But now the council's told Cook she has 6 months to take down the birds' homes and needs consent to rebuild them under new specifications. Cook claims all her neighbours were happy with the setup, saying she doesn't know the nature of the complaint laid against the rescue facility. The enclosures have always undergone regular checks by the Department of Conservation and the DCC. Dunedin Bird Rescue is the only operation in the city that takes in any bird at any time, relying only on donations from the community to keep the operation running. The DCC says staff have visited the site to look into the complaint from a member of the public, but no official notices have been issued at this point in time. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Whai Yakane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. Some of Christchurch's up-and-coming hip-hop fans took centre stage, using their voices as instruments. And against all odds, the Alexandra Blossom Festival pushed on with a display of colour and life. Tēnā koe, welcome back. A youth organisation is providing a platform for Christchurch's hip-hop community to perform on stage while having fun at the same time. Youth and Cultural Development invited some artists from around New Zealand to join local talent at the HipHop Summit Festival recently.
These young beatboxers putting in the hours to improve their skills. Excitement is ramping in the beatboxing world as Christchurch welcomes back the HipHop Summit for its 3rd year. The free annual celebration kicked off over the weekend, featuring live performances, workshops and exhibitions. Co-organiser Tommy Ninko says the event celebrates Christchurch's rich hip-hop culture, giving young people the opportunity to develop and display their talents.
We've got beatboxing, we've got breakdancing, graffiti, MCing, DJing, so all the elements of hip-hop, just bringing everyone together just to have a good time and showcase what Christchurch is all about.
Homegrown talent 10A was on hand to share his beat-making and production knowledge with young wannabe musicians, using the opportunity to hone their skills.
All this looks flashy, you don't need it all. You can use your phone and just make beats.
He's done a lot of international collaborations with people, so we're very fortunate to have him here, showcase what he's all about and what he can bring in and share with the people.
Tom and Ninko says there are a lot of very talented hip-hop musicians in Christchurch, even though they are mostly relatively unknown.
Beatmaking and beatboxing, they've got like their own community that we don't really know about, that people don't really get to see. So giving them a platform here at the Christchurch HipHop Summit, it just exposes them to another crowd, to more people, and hopefully we can just keep pushing it further.
The week-long festival wraps up on Saturday with a vibrant hub of creativity, fashion and entertainment at the Tauranga TSB area for a hip-hop market. In Christchurch, the South today.
Floats swept through Alexandra's main road last weekend as the annual Blossom Festival showed off its colours. There were doubts the festival would go ahead, but the bad weather cleared for the event's much-loved parade.
Floats of all shapes, sizes and colour, delighting crowds lined up along Alexandra's main road. Thousands of people cheered on the variety of vehicles on display as the central Otago town hosted its annual Blossom Festival parade. There were concerns the festival wasn't to be, after wild weather swept through the region late last week, forcing Friday's events to be canned. It's the first time parts of the festival's been cancelled due to the weather. But a calm, cloudy day meant the floats could hit the streets, showcasing the hours of work locals put into putting on a good show. The town's Pioneer Park was brimming with activities, with plenty on offer for those wanting a bite to eat, as well as some carnival classics. It's the 66th year the event's been held, with the parade a mainstay in the region's calendar. In Alexandra, the South today.
Dunedin's only outdoor swimming pool is starting to warm up as lifeguards prepare for another busy season of big splashes. Many locals are getting excited to dive into the St Clair hot salt water pool, but poor weather may rain on their parade.
Taking a plunge into the St Clair hot salt water pool. The covers are rolling off and the water temperatures are rising for the outdoor swimming pool, which is set to open its doors on Sunday morning. Staff were being shown around the facilities on Tuesday as part of an induction, getting ready to welcome back locals for their 6-month season.
We cover our expectations. We also cover things like water treatment, making sure that they know how to do chlorine readings, pH readings, so that the pool can run at optimal levels.
While the weekend's weather forecast isn't looking too promising, aquatics team lead Michael Kruger's still expecting some brave swimmers to make a splash. He says the pool's usually kept at around 28 degrees, but even with the warm, inviting temperatures, the weather still has a huge impact on their season.
If it is a nice hot season like it was last one, we did have a really good season when the weather turned, but we're not in control of that. We do try our best.
Staff are hoping to see many swimmers come and take a dip at the opening this weekend, kicking off their season, which ends in early April as we come into winter. In Dunedin, the South today.
Wigram's Air Force Museum of New Zealand is welcoming a retired NZAF Orion to its Christchurch base, adding to its multi-million-dollar exhibition.
It's the end of an era as a Royal New Zealand Air Force Orion makes its way south to Christchurch, wingless. A specialist truck normally used to carry houses transported the 36-metre-long fuselage by road. NZAF 203 is one of 6 Orions retired by the Air Force earlier this year, after flying more than 27,000 hours during its career spanning over half a century. The retired planes have been replaced by 4 Boeing Poseidon aircraft to continue in their airborne surveillance role. The decommissioned Lockheed Orion was disassembled at Marlborough's base Woodburn last month, preparing the aircraft for its long 455-kilometre road trip south to its new home at Wigram's Air Force Museum of New Zealand. The Air Force Museum plans to build a new $20 million exhibition hangar to house the retired national icon, which is the largest aircraft in their collection. The convoy arrived at the museum in the early hours of Thursday morning for unloading. In Christchurch, the South today.
Tackle boxes are being replenished and rods are being strung as Southern anglers get set to catch some fish. The 2023 freshwater fishing season is just around the river bend, leaving some keen Southlanders chomping at the bit.
Hook, line and sinker, this fisherman is rearing to go for the upcoming season. Keen Southland anglers are preparing to take to the water ahead of the upcoming 2023 New Zealand freshwater fishing season. RSA Gore and District Angling Club President Ron Thornton is excited to finally get his line back in the water and is encouraging people of all ages to get involved.
The Gore Angling Club is mainly meeting people and going out and doing some fishing. We do a lot of trips, we do a lot of competitions.
The Gore Town and Country Club are also reeling for a busy season, with a number of trips and competitions planned for their angling section.
Oh, just get out and do it. It's, you know, with all our spells, you can always drown a worm. You'll catch something.
The New Zealand freshwater fishing season starts next month, with the Matoda River open for hooking until autumn next year. In Gore, the South today.
Whaiakane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. A Southland handball star casts the net on the hunt for some new talent, and some Canterbury Fire volunteers are brushing up on some of their key skills in anticipation of a busy summer season. Tēnā koe, welcome back. Southland's only New Zealand men's handball player is on the lookout for some future talents, hoping to grow the sport in the region. The national team athlete is taking matters into his own hands, calling for people to join him on the court for a public open day.
Aston Lang shooting his shot, hoping to grow the sport of handball in the Southland region. The left back is hosting a Handball Open Day at the ILT Stadium in Invercargill on Saturday, looking to attract some young athletes. Lang says handball gives people who don't play traditional sports like rugby, football or basketball a new outlet to get involved with.
Sharing handball with Southland is about introducing a new sport with a new culture that we can decide on, and being able to just share the enthusiasm, the passion and the pride that comes with it.
He's helped many young players from the Otago Handball High School League grow, with some even progressing to play for the national team. Lang's proud of being the only Southlander to be a part of the New Zealand squad and hopes to inspire the youth to take up the sport.
I think it's really important that with new sport in Southland, that there is someone representing the region on the national level and the international level, and actually there does exist a pathway to becoming an international representative for New Zealand in this sport.
Lang's hoping the Handball Open Day will not only attract more people towards the sport, but also raise money for his team to compete at the Asian Handball Championships in January next year. In Invercargill, the South today.
Canterbury's firefighters are still trying to get on the front foot against the expected busy, hot and dry summer fire season, despite the restriction lift in central Otago. Fire and Emergency New Zealand are running training days to upskill key volunteers in safety and prevention methods, hoping to reduce the number of incidents in the region.
These volunteer firefighters upskilling themselves ahead of their busy season. Key personnel from Canterbury's fire brigades are being trained in fire safety and prevention methods in an effort to combat the predicted hot and dry summer. Fire and Emergency New Zealand are concerned about the conditions the El Nino weather pattern is set to bring, worried about the influence it will have on starting fires.
We want to get as much education out there to the members of the public and the communities, so by upskilling the volunteers, it's another way that we can get that messaging out.
Around 20 volunteers from the Selwyn and Banks Peninsula areas attended the weekend training session, covering numerous topics from fighting and preventing scrub fires to dealing with car crashes. The training has been put in place so those volunteers will go back to their stations to pass on their newfound knowledge to their colleagues and the wider community. Fire and Emergency New Zealand says there have been a number of fires in Canterbury recently, caused by people not properly extinguishing their vegetation fires.
In the last couple of weeks we've had burn piles that haven't been extinguished properly and they might have been put out 2 or 3 weeks ago, but with the nor'wester winds they've flared back up and ignited.
FENZ will be holding a similar training event this weekend for around 60 volunteers from a number of North Canterbury stations. In Christchurch, the South today.
Dunedin's Edgar Centre was filled with passionate young speakers recently, taking part in what's regarded as one of the most significant events in Māori education. Ngā Manu Kōrero brought hundreds of rangatahi together from across the country, with speakers tapping into their cultural roots.
Taking centre stage, speaking with confidence, highlighting the importance of te reo Māori. 60 high school students from across Aotearoa made their way to Dunedin on Thursday for the Ngā Manu Kōrero National Speech Competition. 4 Otago teams entered the popular cultural event, which was held at the Edgar Centre. Otago homeschool student Te Ataro Cassidy placed 3rd in the senior te reo Māori section for his speech on climate change.
I think climate change is a big thing for everyone, for the whole planet, because if we don't fix it then we're all screwed.
The secondary school speech competition consists of both junior and senior sections in te reo and English, with students speaking on topics that hold importance to them.
I chose being unapologetically Māori. It's a strong topic for me. I believe I am unapologetic Māori.
The competition gives students an opportunity to have their voice be heard, while also improving their assurance in themselves on stage.
In a general confidence sense, I competed in Manu Kōrero. I spoke in front of all of these people, and all these people watched it on the live stream and everything, and you just feel more centred in yourself, I guess. Yeah.
Winners of the competition got to take home traditional taonga, highlighting the powerful role of te reo Māori and the lives of rangatahi. In Dunedin, the South today.
Central Otago's finest young viticulturalists didn't let the recent poor weather dampen their mood as they put their winemaking skills to the test. The annual Central Otago Young Winemakers helps pop the cork on up-and-coming careers, the competition heating up for a spot in Nationals.
Rolling out the wine barrels as these viticulturists adapt their strategies against Cromwell's rainy weather. This annual Central Otago Young Winemakers competition was held on Thursday, testing participants in all things winemaking, including general knowledge, lab skills and essay writing. Event coordinator Nikki Grandorge says contestants gave it their all, with the 5 up-and-comers impressing the judges with their skills and professional attitude.
It gives the young winemakers or the emerging winemakers the opportunity to make a name for themselves. It's a chance for them to share their ideas and views with senior members of the industry.
Grandorge says the competition is a great way for the young winemakers to network with other people in the industry, giving them the opportunity to make a name for themselves.
For Central, it's just great to see that next generation coming up through the ranks. We've got a few different wineries represented here today.
Amersfield's winery Aliana Leal competed in the competition for the 2nd time, coming in prepared, studying for several weeks leading up to the event.
You always try to prepare and you never get 100% prepared for it, but the best thing is just to enjoy it and just challenge yourself.
Leal's preparation for the competition proved significant, with the 29-year-old taking out the competition. The win has earned her a spot in the National Young Winemaker of the Year final, where she'll be representing Central Otago in Waipara late next month. In Cromwell, the South today.
It was a battle of the paddles in Southland earlier this week, with hundreds of skilled ping pong players making their way to the deep south. Invercargill hosted the Table Tennis New Zealand Open Championships recently, bringing it back to the city for the first time in more than 2 decades.
Lightning fast reflexes and fierce rivalries. These athletes are putting their best shots on the table. Balls are flying at the New Zealand Table Tennis Open Championships in Southland this week, with more than 250 players showcasing their skills at the ILT Stadium. It's the first time Invercargill has hosted the tournament in around 20 years. The national champs has attracted international players from the Cook Islands, New Caledonia and the United States, bringing them down to the southernmost city.
Well, usually it happens in the North Island or Christchurch, so it's really cool to because I live in Invercargill, so just to have all people with different styles from all over the place with really good coaches. It's really cool, yeah.
The championship caters for all age ranges, hosting a senior and junior section with both team and individual matches captivating the crowd. Table Tennis New Zealand CEO Warren Ogilvie says the tournament needed a big venue to hold up to 20 tables, believing ILT Stadium was the ideal choice.
It's very important that we share the venues and the locations of these national events throughout the country, and so we've been delighted to utilise the facility here.
The 8-day event started with a serve last weekend and is set to wrap up with the senior individual finals on Sunday. In Invercargill, the South today.
That wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz, and you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube and the South Today NZ on Facebook to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.